Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining Create with Dee. I'm Dee Slater, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Welcome to our class this week. As always, as you come on board, if you'd like to say hi, let me know where you're from. I'm from Northeast Indiana, and if you want to say hi, please do so on that. I'm a couple of days later, if you happen to follow me live. Normally I come live on Wednesdays, but I was the office backup for our family business this week, and it didn't allow me to come on at my normal time at 10 a.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So I postponed it till today, and I'm really excited about our card class here today. So one of the things that I thought I would start out as people are getting notifications and everything that they're coming in, is a little bit talking about building up our basics. I believe I've done this before, but it's been a while. And just in case there's some new stampers to this hobby, I thought I just would kind of share with you a couple of thoughts that I have. One is that really it's about building up our collection. And the basics are paper, ink, and accessories. Yes, the stamps are important too, so don't get me wrong on that. But really, it's about making sure that you have the back of the catalog items. And by the back of the catalog, what I'm meaning is that's where you'll find the paper, inks, and accessories. I kind of think about it as building your clothes wardrobe. Even though that you might want that beautiful new outfit, you know, you're going to need the stuff that goes under it. You know, you're going to need the basics. You're going to need some socks and et cetera, and shoes and all of that. And then when you find that perfect dress, you have the things that you need to go along with it. And that's kind of the same thing with card making, in my opinion, is that as you're building your collection, or maybe you're revamping it, yes, you know, I'm going to show you a beautiful stamp set and bundle today. But as you add your collection, you really need to think about having the basics, the paper, ink, ribbons, accessories too. So that's just a little something that I thought I would share with you. Hi, Marge. Hi, Doreen. Thanks for joining. Okay, let's get with today's class. Today I'm featuring the bundle Notes of Nature. I really like this. I think if you watched me last week, I'm kind of into more of the vintage collage type of thing. I'm really attracted to that. So I'm continuing on kind of with that theme this week too, and with this card class. Here's the dies that coordinate with it. You can save 10% with the bundle on it. And we're going to be, you know, focusing on this. And the paper that I'm using is Poetic Expressions. And like I said, it kind of has a vintage feel to it as well. There is masculine and feminine in both of these, or on both sides of the paper. So it's another pretty paper. All right, let's go ahead. I'll turn the camera around and we'll get started with our card class here today. So today's class, we're going to be making some vintage inspired cards, again using that Notes of Expression stamp set and bundle. And let's go ahead and we'll start off with this one. This one's got lots of layers, but they're not hard layers, and we're just going to add that collage feel all around with it. So let's go ahead. I'll get my items out. Oh, in case you have the mini catalog, the Notes of Nature can be found on page 43. And then the paper I'm using is part of the Poetic Expressions suite and that. I'm also going to be bringing in some of my new favorite stitch shapes over here too. I was sharing that last week, and I'm still kind of continuing that. All right, so also if you are local and signed up for card class this week, this is the class that we're making. I'll also have information in the video if it's something that you're interested in later on. Okay, so if you want to get this class kit to go. All right, so for our first card, I'm using Wild Wheat as the base color for all of these cards. The current in colors, the 2023-25 in colors are all about what I always call new neutral. So I'm using the Wild Wheat as the neutral. 8.5 by 5.5, scored and or folded in half for the card base. Going to have a piece of basic white that we'll use for the inside, 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to set those two off to the side for now. Then I have a piece of petal or bubble bath. And the bubble bath, this is cut initially at 3 3/4 by 5. And then I took one of the dies that's in there. It's this die right here. And I wanted to show you how I did this. So this makes this really, you know, you can make little notebook ring out of this. You could actually make several of these, and it's perforated so that you could have some fun doing other things. What I did is I centered it on the top here so that the middle three and just one of the closest outside ones were on there, and then die cut it. So skip the outer two if you make this and die cut it. So that's what I used and how I did that. So I did that ahead of time. Put that over there. And then we're also going to need some other pieces. We're going to need 2 pieces of that Poetic Expressions designer paper. Grab 2 different patterns, and these are cut at 3 3/4 by 2.5 on both of them. And then a scrap of basic white, 3/4 by 4 inches. Okay, let's start in making some collages. Hi, Tammy. All right, let's see here. I'm going to be using those same 2 colors, ink colors. These are the only ink colors that I'm going to use, the Bubble Bath and the Wild Wheat. And I'm going to start building my collage. So again, Notes of Nature. I'm going to be using this image right here to do a lot of random stamping on the background. And I don't put the labels on it because they never say straight for me. And so I'm just gonna, and you can take the, like this is called stamping off or using the second stamp. That way you can get your tones, the light and dark. Most of it's going to be covered up, but I want to make sure I get the edges. I think that looks good, and I can always come back in later on and do some more with it. All right. For vintage, for me, sometimes means ripped. And I know you've seen that I have this old scrapbooky type of thing that you can sit there and rip, but today I'm just going to go ahead and what do I say? I'm just going to tear it with my fingers here. So I just kind of want to get it a little somewhat straight. I'm using my thumbnail here as kind of my guide to stop it so it doesn't go crazy, you know, in a direction I don't want it to be. Okay, not too bad on that. And I'm going to do the same thing with my designer paper. I'm going to take a smaller little bite out of it. We're just going to hand rip it. I'm going to keep the edges non-ripped. And see, this is where like your thumb can really just act as a guide. And I do want to do the top as well. Something a little therapeutic about just kind of ripping something. And the good news is on this is if you replicate this at home with, you know, what you might have, you know, you can play around with the size of your paper a little bit. If you rip too much of it, no big deal. You can just go and get yourself another scrap. Actually, this is kind of a good layout to use with some scrap that you might have. Alrighty. All right, let's see what that does. I'm going to get out my sponge dauber this time. And going to, what do I say, antique it or kind of make it look a little more rustic. Got my sponge dauber and I put it on my finger like this and I can go pretty fast. You don't really need to re-ink it very much. Once you get ink on your sponge, it pretty much can stay until it gets light. And that's another thing I like about the vintage look. It's like you don't necessarily want it to all have that same look to it. Where the paper ripped and we've got those rough edges, that really picks up the color on that. So we'll get that. And then also going to do our bubble bath. And see where we rip that, it really picks up the color on the tear part of it. All right, and while I have the ink pad up, I'm going to go ahead and get our other stamped images. Here I'm going to do the image from the stamp set that says, "Today is all about you. Happy birthday." And use our wild wheat. See how that goes? Not too bad. And we'll do the inside of it too. So on the inside, again, I've got some of the images from the stamp set. This one that says field notes on it. I'm going to stamp that in the bubble bath. And then this little image here, this little kind of flowery weed image. Going to do that. I think that kind of reminds me of like Queens Anne lace a little bit. I don't know if that's what they intended, but that's what I'm calling it. And let's get our bubble bath out. And get the field notes. I want to make sure I got it going in the right direction here. So I'm going to stamp it like that. I think my bubble bath needs re-inked. I'm just going to line it up to the edge and do that. And then I'll get my little kind of flower weed image here and stamp, don't re-ink, and stamp again. Okay, let's assemble our card. Got all of the stamping done. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the inside. If you wanted to, you could even ink around the edges. I'm not going to do that for time's sake here today. I didn't do it on my sample, but you so could. Thanks, Doreen. I'm glad you liked the layout for birthdays. Alrighty, we'll put this right in here. And then I'm just going to start layering my our ripped images. I want to get a crisp edge to that score line there. So I'm going to angle this. And as you can see, like this is a little bit off of the, the card base. So I'm just going to go ahead and we'll just take a little bit of that angle off here. So now it will be just fine. And I'm going to bring my sponge dauber back in. We'll ink that up. In fact, if you wanted to, you could do a little bit of that. All right, and we're going to just glue this right into the frame. Each one of these will be just a little different because of the ripping. So you can just kind of play around with that. And we'll get this angled up here. And then on our, other ripped images here, you can kind of stage them a little bit. I'm going to have one just slightly overlapping over here. And then this one will overlap like that. And I want to keep in mind that when I put these down, I do want to have it so that my sentiment's going to angle over both of them. So I'm going to do this one. And this is what I was saying, like the other side, you could switch up the colors a little bit and you can make a masculine version of this. So I don't want it to be exactly, and I'm going to stay within the frame of my card base. And now on this one, I'm going to kind of see where I want this to be and maybe have this go up a little bit. That looks good. It doesn't, the sentiment doesn't have to cover the edges. I'm just was kind of playing around with that a little bit. All right. So whether you join me in person here locally at class this week, or you get this kit to go, you'll have a little cello bag that will have all of the accessories that you need in it. Of course, you're not going to have the stamped images because that's, you know, can't do that per policy, but you would get the, like some scrap that you can do your own with. So these are some more images from the die set. And on my sample here, I did not ink that those up. I just, or as far as like to distress them, I just have them normal. Get my liquid glue, and I'm just barely squeezing to get a few of the leaves. And let's see, we're going to put this about right here. You could always do this afterwards and tuck it in too. See, I think well, it's already got glue on it. And then ahead of time, I took that same Queen Anne's lace image, stamped it, and it's got a matching die that cuts it out, die cuts it out. So I have that, and I'm going to pop this up with a dimensional. So this is where kind of the vintage stuff kind of looks, where sometimes vintage means like lots of layers on it. And so that's what we're doing here. We're just, you know, building up our area. So I'm going to put some dimensionals here. And now we've got our sentiment. I'm going to add some dimensionals. I'm going to get 3 of them. So these are some, you know, scrap pieces of basic white that you might have. So you've got a 3/4 inch, and these narrow sentiments are perfect for using those type of scraps. Okay. Oops, get my backing off. And then kind of angle that so that it covers all of it. And ahead of time, I tied a bow out of linen thread. Get that out and get a mini glue dot. I had this video scheduled, and I didn't have all of my information ready to go to put on it, so it automatically loads. So I'll have all of the supplies underneath it here after the live's off. I've got it all ready to go. Right, so I got that. And then I'm grabbing my pastel adhesive backs. This is what I was talking about, like building your building with the basics. These are all cardstocks colors, and then you've seen me use these quite a bit. This isn't anything that was a part of the collection initially, but it's you know, it's all of this stuff will play around with it. And let's see, I think I've got, this is my down to the nitty gritty one of this. I don't have my, I have another one that has the pink in it, and I didn't bring that here. So let's just put some of the like the gold tone in this. I don't have any blue on this one. And let's just kind of add 3 random ones somewhere. Do that. And that's our card. So that's our card number 1, using the Notes of Nature and the Poetic Expressions designer paper as inspiration. Okay, that's card number 1. Let me know what you think on that. Morning, Doreen. think I already said good morning, so sorry about that. Well, I'll say good morning to you several times. It doesn't matter. I'm so happy that you're always a loyal fan. I really appreciate that so much. All right, let's go ahead on with our next card. This one I'm going to be bringing in my embossing machine here, so it'll be just a little delay as we do this. But here's our card number 2. I'm going to be using the floral. The Layered Florals 3D embossing folder. It's so pretty. I love this floral embossing folder as a raised background on it. We'll be using that in the next 2 cards. And what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to stamp my background on a piece of basic white and then emboss it and then do some layering. And then again, we've got our little collage look here on the inside. All right, so for this card, using, again, Wild Wheat's going to be our card base for everything. Another 8.5 by 5.5 scored, or we can fold it in half. Going to need a piece of our Poetic Expressions designer paper. This one is, just double check, 2 by 4. And then we need 2 pieces of basic white cardstock, one for the outside, one for the inside. Both of these are 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'm going to just start working first. Well, we'll work first on both of these. Put these back into my envelope to keep myself organized here just a little bit. All right, so on this one, we're going to get some other images out. And look at this and this. And you know what? I did have boho blue. So I have 3 inks on there. I wanted to bring that boho blue back into it. And let me load up the splatter image. Splatter images, these type of images on the stamp set just so help act as fillers. Sometimes when you're like, I just need another little something, that little something, like these little splatters, really do help fill that out. So let's go ahead and let's put some splatters on first. This is going to be the one that I'm going to run through the embossing folder. The bottom of it's going to be covered up with designer paper. So, you know, you can just kind of scatter a little bit. I don't want to get it too much on that. I take one of the little floral images from the stamp set. And again, just do some random. Because the bubble bath is pretty light, I'm going to use the, I'm not going to use the second stamp image on it. And let's see here. And we'll get our Wild Wheat. And we'll get our little crosshair stamp again. And look at that. And just, I'm going to actually put one here, and I want to make this kind of light. So just a little background, kind of hit the edges on the top. You can see here I just used multiple stamping without re-inking. Okay, we'll get that off to the side here. I'm going to, well, I've got this. I'm going to add a little blue. Get that off to the side, and we'll get our bubble bath out again. Add some of our little florals. This would be what I would do for the outside of the envelope too. Look how pretty that is. Okay, get that off to the side. All right, so let me bring in the die cutting emboss machine. Okay, so for Stampin' Up's 3D folders, you do the base plate and the gray embossing plate that goes on top. This might jiggle and wiggle just a little bit. I'm going to take my embossing folder and going to put it so that the Stampin' Up! Logo's facing up, and then that's where I'm going to put my, that'll be the side that embosses. So I've got this on the platform, making my sandwich, making sure that everything's even. That'll keep it from your plates and things from warping. And this might jiggle just a little bit. I'm going to try to go slow so it doesn't earthquake the camera. Okay, let me get this out of our road. And now we've got our textured kind of collage flower look. But you could do this afterwards. It might leave a little bit of, like you could emboss first and then stamp, but this way your images are going to be complete images if you stamp first and then run it through the embossing folder. Such a pretty, let me just kind of show you what it looks like. Look how pretty that is. A lot of images in some of our other stamp sets that would coordinate with it. So I really like that embossing folder. All I have to do is do a video, and my family calls me every time. Am I back? Please let me know if I am. I'm sure that I am, but oh my gosh. All right, so here's our cardstock. We're going to go ahead and fold that in half again. And let's go ahead and we'll work from the inside out. Liquid glue. Cute. My husband's knocking. Hang on just a second, guys. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry about that. I wish I could pause live, but I can't. Oh well. Okay, so sorry about that. Thanks for hanging on. Okay, so we just put this back in here. All right. So now what we're doing is we're going to take our collage, and I'm going to add some ribbon to this. So again, this might be where, again, kind of talking about building our collections. The boho ribbon, has been out for a little bit. Probably most of you, if you've got the coordinating cardstock pack or like the multi-pack of the in colors, maybe you picked up a ribbon or two to go with it. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my 2x4 piece of designer paper and put that down towards the bottom. I know some people might have only used a partial one on that, but what I like to do is most of the times I just like to really start with the full piece of basic white and then add my layers on top of it. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll add the ribbon. Sometimes what's the easiest way to add ribbon that's kind of thick and you're just wrapping it around like this is good old office tape. And that's what I'm going to use. I know we could use our tear and tape if we wanted to, but quite honestly, if I'm just wrapping the ribbon, I just use office tape. Because I'm going to be adding more glue on top of it. So let me just kind of get one of the sides going here first. Just wrapping that around. Put some office tape on it. Wrap it around. Straighten it up. And do that. Okay. So, and then you can sit there and just make sure that it's straight. It looks pretty good. Now we can put this whole layer down. And I'm okay with using liquid glue. I know on the 3D folders, some people like to use Stampin tape on the outer edges. You could use dimensionals to pop it up. I'm just using liquid glue. And I'm going to squish it down. Okay. And I'll just make sure it all has good contact. There we go. I'm going to get out our accessory pack again. And this time, I've kind of got things piling up in about a 18 by 18 area here. I'm going to kind of clean up just a second so I got a little more elbow room. All right, so ahead of time, I've die cut this really awesome vine image out of our wild wheat. Oops, I got some glue on there. Let's flip this over. And I don't think I need that anymore. And also I've got our, from those, the dies, the Thoughtful Expressions. You could use any of the layering dies that you have. I'm just a little bit obsessed with these new stitched shape ones. I've got the larger of the two out of boho blue, and then we're going to stamp our sentiment using the basic white. If we look at the card, you might see, oh, well, where's this little die here? I don't have just a single leaf die. Well, we're going to trim down this guy right here, and we're going to use our extra piece to go behind our little floral image. So what I did is I just kind of layered this down on the card base. And then if you notice that these, it kind of has a natural cutoff about right here. So 1, 2, 3 leaves, I'm going to cut and trim those off. Like that. And then I'm just going to kind of trim off this little stem part and just kind of follow the curve of it. And now I had left over this really cute little leaf. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to throw that away. I'm going to add it to the card. So first what we're going to do is we're just going to have this layered straight down. I'm going to build up the layers. I'm going to have the large label, then I'm going to add the vine, and then add our sentiment on top of it. So I want this one to just be flat on it. And this is going to go right in the center of the top portion that we've got our vintage embossed layer. Okay, and now I'm going to take the back side, and with the liquid glue, this is all just layering. I don't want any of these to be popped up just yet because I want our basic white sentiment layer to be popped up, and I've got quite a bit of layers going on here. All right, so we'll get that so it overlaps. So we've got it flushed to the left side. All right, and now for our sentiment. For this one, we're using just a little note. There it is. Just a little note to say hello, and we will get out our wild wheat. So again, this would be one that maybe you're thinking, oh, I'll get the In Color collection pack. These are all some of the In Colors, with the exception of the bubble bath. Just, oops, crooked, because my head was crooked. There we go, much better. All right, and now I'm going to get out our dimensionals. I do. I need to have the, Marge said, like, you need to have those on-air signals. I do. I need to have, like, you know, like filming in process. Please do not knock, do not call. There might be some way on my phone, which is this camera here, that's pointing down, that I can say, you know, don't accept calls. I know I can take the volume off, but it can still accept the calls. All right, so then that one is going over like this. All right, and then ahead of time, I stamped that same floral image that we used earlier, and I stamped it with wild wheat, and die cut it, or stamped with wild wheat on the bubble bath, and then it has the image to die cut it. And so I'm going to have that. And here's our little leaf image that we had that was like the, you know, the leftover here. And I thought, why not use that and build a cute little background image for it. So what we could do is, if you wanted to, you could add just a little bit of liquid glue to the back of it, just to kind of keep it in position temporarily. And then I'm going to put a dimensional over the whole thing. But this way I can kind of go like this. Put this behind it, and then this way with the liquid glue I can move it around into position. And then I'll take my dimensional and stick it over the top. That'll secure it into place, but then a little liquid glue ahead of time lets me move it. And I'm going to put that here at the corner. And we just need to tie another bow. I'm not going to do it right now. I didn't have it done ahead of time, but if you wanted to, you could put another little bow there on the corner. And we'll get out our sequence here. And get this down. Those things can just go crazy on. Well, anyways, we'll put some sequins on it, and then our card is done. But that's how you can start to build up, you know, some images using the die set on it, and have another vintage card. Okay, that's our second card. We've got one more card to do. All right. Our last card is again using our 3D floral embossing folder. So ahead of time, I did go ahead with the basic white layer and die cut out, or not die cut, but I did emboss that layer. And this time, just to mix it up, I've got the card base going 4 1/4 by 11, scored so that we can fold it at the 5 1/2 mark. This time, instead of using any stamped images, just wanted to show how we can take our designer paper and put that at the bottom. So this is the card. This card I saved for last because I knew it would be the quickest one. So I took a piece of 1 by 4 designer paper from our Poetic Expressions, and I'm going to take some liquid glue, and we'll put this down here at the bottom. And then this is going to go on the inside. If you wanted to, of course, you could do all of those layering that we did, stamping layers that we did previously, if you wanted to, on the inside. That just kind of dresses up the inside a little bit. So here again, ahead of time, I ran it through that beautiful embossing folder, started out with a 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to layer this one down. And do that. Get that centered on our card. And then I'm going to take, add some layers to this. The designer paper is cut at, let me make sure I got my measurements right here, is 3 by 4 1/4, and I'm going to layer that on our wild wheat at 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. So I'm just going to layer that. I know, need a big do not disturb, don't knock, don't call. I thought I was doing so good here this morning too. About 9 o'clock, I text my mom and sisters and said, I'm doing my video today, so please don't call until after, a certain time. But what I didn't do is let hubby know, and because he never calls. He's not a phone person. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and layer this onto the center of our card, and I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals. This is a pretty large piece to pop up, so don't be skimpy on it. We want to support it all as far as the number of dimensionals. We want to make sure that we've got it nice and supported. That way it stays uniform as it's laying on the card. It won't droop in the middle. I've done that before and thought, oh, I'm not going to use as many, and then it kind of loses its shape over time. Especially like if you mail it, it might get squished a little bit in the center of it. So if it's got supported all around, it's just that. Take another one of those stitch shapes from that die set. Here's the scallop circle one. And I'm going to get the sentiment that says, thanks for making me smile. And get our wild wheat. This card, I loved how it turned out in the monochromatic. So it just has the wild wheat and basic white, and I just think it's so classy looking. Get this stitch going in the right direction. And we'll get that stamped. So on this one, what I did, again, this is the wild wheat ribbon, and we're going to take just a little bit of it. Doesn't need much, like maybe 5 inches or so, and just really doesn't need much at all. So if you happen to have a little scrap piece left over, that's all we need for that. And I'm going to turn this over, and I'm just going to fold it down at an angle like so. And this is where mini glue dots for this might work out best. Get my take your pick tool, and I'm going to start out with one on the back. Let's see, here's where I want it, about right here. And so if we start out by just angle cutting it, kind of make it a V shape, and then we can angle it how we want. So that just kind of helps keep it in place. The liquid glue on these cotton ribbons might not be like the best on it. I kind of like how that looks. Maybe a little more angled down. Just going to kind of play around with it. Okay, I like that. And then just like before, we can take our, if you wanted to, you could almost add another glue dot to keep it into place, but I'm going to come in with my dimensional. I'm going to kind of anchor it down with 2 of them. And then we'll get a couple more and take this off. I'll come back in and clean up those tails once it's on the card. And I'll put this right in the center. And I'm going to kind of woman handle those. Probably would want it to come down a little more like here, but I'm going to make this just work. Kind of go ahead and cut off the tails. Angle cut them a little bit. Cute. And then again, add a linen thread bow and add our pastel sequence to the front of it. And that's our class. Let me go ahead and turn the camera around. What's a live video with D Slater if, it's not interrupted and there's not some boo-boos, right? Well, let me bring in all of our other cards that we had here today. And then stay tuned for a little sneak peek of what this month's club is about. But here's our cards. This is the one that we just made. That was our first one that's got a lot of collage to it, and one that kind of shows the technique of stamping and then running it through an embossing folder. So I hope you liked the class here today. If it's something that you want a kit to go, there'll be information here for this class down below here just momentarily. And I did want to say that today's the last day to sign up for this month's Creative Club. My Creative Club, the cutoff is the 10th of each month. And we are doing fun folds this time. And so these are the cards that you would be making. And so today's the last day that you can get in on this. So again, love the gold on it. Okay, I'll go through the comments and see if there's anything else that I can help anybody with. As always, I so appreciate you tuning in and watching my videos. If you would, I would love for you to give this a thumbs up, a heart. Do leave a comment if there's anything in here that you liked, any tips or tricks, or if you just like the overall design. And if you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube, follow me on Facebook. And again, if there's anything I can ever do to help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, have a great rest of your Saturday. Happy crafting. Bye-bye.